Okay. Anybody
So when do I get to check my email?
You know what?
During which slide is that?
You want it? Yeah.
I'm kidding.
That's at the end.
But he usually picks on me about something like that. So I was just getting up from it.
I can't wait. I'll decide kind of in the moment, Will, whether I'll add on to it or I'll take your side.
Yeah, and I'm going through my notes to see what bloopers I have because I don't know.
Are you error-free this week, John? Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
No.
Welcome to an all-new episode of Work in Progress with John Lane and Will Barfield. This podcast explores leadership traits under stress with a special guest each week. We use a simple and accurate OAD assessment to identify key personality traits or superpowers, as well as the shadow side, Kryptonite traits that appear when we're under stress. As always, we'll have some pod banter, shameless plugging, and we'll even let our guests talk for a bit. Of course, no humble brags. Welcome to the show.
Let's go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to an all-new episode of Work in Progress with John Lane and Will Barfield. We have local guests today. Hi, Greg. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good to see everyone.
Good to see you, Greg.
It's funny. Greg and I are in the same room. We're in Brooks Bell HQ in downtown Raleigh. We're on the opposite sides. But through the magic of television, we're coming together across the Ethernet. I think that's kind of impressive.
Oh, I like how you get close there. That's very nice.
Oh, yay. I like that. So, Will, what do you notice today?
You're wearing red.
And do you know why?
Because it was clean.
That was my joke.
Oh, sorry.
No, because I was told it looks good. Remember, I was vain. So anyway,
yes.
We had a very good episode last time I wore this. So yeah, that was good. So I have some banter, and through the magic of our software, I'm going to show you some things. But first, I have to find them. Where do these things go? First, I am sick of. Where's this camera? I am sick of Wegmans ignoring us, so now I'm going to try to pimp us out to LaCroix.
Ooh.
Right? Greg, do you know anyone at LaCroix? Can you get us a sponsored
I do not, but I would like to know them too.
You guys certainly buy enough of them.
We sure do. Yes.
And I want to say, this is my favorite LaCroix, and not because of the flavor, but because it's free, and your fridge is full of them. So thank you. Okay.
What is the flavor?
Plain, like me.
Oh,
we're still rolling with our 10th anniversary take 2. We had some nice feedback last week. It does seem that there's some folk who would like us to do this for them in their work. So we'll continue to run our promotion because why wouldn't we, even though we're the 11th episode? So if you think some of this foolishness might be helpful to you in your company, we'd be glad to talk to you about that.
Well, for those who follow the show closely, your mother and my mother,
yes, sir.
They remember that on the 9th show we had our 10th anniversary celebration. So we could have it on the 11th. We can keep having it. You don't have to tie 10 to 10. I mean, those things.
Who does that? 11 is the new 10.
That's what I heard. I think your shirt matches the logo here.
That's me. Yeah. And then I did remember to do my homework, Will. I brought our quadrants, and we love all of our guests, but we are not having much luck getting some of these other quadrants filled. So we have another upper right. Welcome to the club, Greg.
Thank you.
Just me and Ken.
Yeah. Lonely. So maybe it's who we know. And then state of the pod, Will. We set a mild goal of having 300 followers on our LinkedIn page. Guess how many we have today?
307.
Excellent. 312. So we broke goal with half a day to go. So I'm super proud. And wait till you see the pickup we get when the Greg episode drops.
Yeah, and my mother only had to create 300 different LinkedIn profiles to help us get there.
Ruh-roh. All right. Well, that's our banter for the show. So what do you say we get actually into it? I just have to find where we are. So we go back to our regular, then go to our slides, and we're recording, and welcome to the pod. And as everybody knows, well, actually, let's change it up.
Yeah.
He's Will Barfield.
And he's John Lane.
And we are
a work in progress.
Beautiful. And you already know him and you love him. Our special guest today, official welcome. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me on.
Would you like to tell? Actually, I think I know where you are, but where are you in this picture at the top?
I'm in the Kii Mountains in Japan, south of Osaka.
Nice.
Hiking the Kumano-Koto, which is one of 2 UNESCO World Heritage pilgrimage trails. The other being the Way of St. James, the Camino de Santiago, which I did last July. This one, the Kumano-Koto, I did in October 2019. How naive we were.
Whoa!
At the end of 2019. But I love that picture. It's a picture after an 11-hour hike coming down the backside of a mountain. It was amazing. Amazing experience. And welcome. Very, very excited to be on the show. A little bit about me, CEO of Brooks Bell. We're a consulting firm here in Raleigh, North Carolina. That's my official title, but really what I think my role is really to align teams, connect people, to do just amazing work, and more importantly, enjoy kind of the work you're doing. Because, life's too short to not enjoy what you're doing. So that's kind of my main mission, and the things I like to talk about and the things I like to lead within my organization.
Very nice.
Well, real quick before we leave this, for the sake of the audience, can you give a little, 15 seconds on exactly the type of work Brooks Bell does?
Yeah, we are a consulting firm. We're in the business of building insight-driven organizations. What that means is, how do we unlock for companies the way in which they take all of the signals that their customers are sending them and create better customer experiences. So we do that primarily through research and experimentation. And that kind of leads into organizational transformation, which is, man, what a multi-syllabic buzzword there. But basically, it's how do we coach clients to get out of their own way and be more efficient in their processes and deliver more remarkable experiences. So it's fun work. It's exciting work. It's fulfilling work.
That's awesome. Believe it or not, that's a bit of what Will and I do with, let's just jump in with our OAD work.
John, what a beautiful segue. Wow,
you guys set me up. So, this is not a commercial message, but we do help teams align and people align in the roles in the larger organization. And we do that the same way we got our Superpowers here, which is a very brief, powerful, and easy to administer personality assessment. It's the beginning of the relationship and the kind of consulting project we do. But it's also the foundation for our Superpowers and Kryptonite. So let's get into it. So, Will, what am I going to say?
Something about Greg and how he feels about being reduced to a 2-dimensional table, how that may have impacted him.
And what's Greg going to say?
He's going to talk about OAD for about an hour or so.
I hope
how
not.
Fabulous it was.
I don't want to listen to it that long.
Greg, he's not that far away from you. You slipped him a 20, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Well, first off, super easy process, and pleasantly surprised, let's say, about how accurate my reading is. I love being defined by high A. I have some difficulty being defined by low P. I don't know exactly what that means, but I like any which way in which I can be assessed, but certainly that seems to visually identify some of the extremes that I have.
And insight is helpful. So why don't I break it down for the people here? Now, if our friends from Software are listening, that's the software that we magically appear to. I will tell you, it is a oh, Greg, maybe you could help with this. This is a user experience glitch because my mouse doesn't work when I point over the slide. So I don't have a pointer. So maybe you guys could help them out. But we break this down by saying there's 4 primary constructs. That's the one we'll talk about today. A, assertiveness, E, extroversion, P, patience, and D, detail orientation. And you can see what Greg's breakout are. So if you see that median line right above the letters EC, anything to the right of them is a dominant trait. Anything to the left is a subordinate trait. So we look at Greg here. He has high assertiveness and even higher extroversion. When Greg's in the room, you know it. That's just what's going to happen. Now, P. Well, that's superpowers and kryptonite. That's why we're here, and we're going to talk about that because somebody with your level of enthusiasm and assertiveness, without being careful, could run roughshod over the whole team. Especially, I bet you have a lot of consultants and kind of more introspective people doing research, and so you got to catch that. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today. Let me hit the P, because the P is not only patience, but it's also, I would read this as saying you run slightly overclocked to the average person. You have a lot of urgency. You're always getting stuff done. You're squeezing a lot into your day, a lot into your vacations, etc. So that's where you get that P. Also, the P reflects somebody who likes change. And so I know you come into an organization, either Brooks Bell or into your clients, and you are going to be a change driver because that's what you guys do. So that is a good fit for you. And then the detail orientation, we could go into this a lot, but I'll just say, and you kind of prep me for this, is you are comfortable and flexible with delegation. So you don't feel like you have to do it all. You feel like, in fact, if you try to do it all, it's going to be counterproductive.
Yeah.
Anywho, so that's Greg in a 2-dimensional chart, but it does reveal a lot, and I love doing these readouts with folks. And now it's really Will's turn to get into some of the more generic superpowers and kryptonite segment. So, Will, why don't you take over?
Thank you, John. I will, and thank you, Greg, for being here with us today. So these next couple slides are more generic. If you land in this quadrant and you get the builder, influence, or readout, these things are going to be pretty universal with those who land in there with you. But is there one of these that when you read it, you're like, oh yeah, that lands, that you might want to give a little bit of detail on here before we move on from this slide? Something jump out?
Yeah, I mean, certainly if you didn't say that word generic on the top, I would have said, oh yeah, that they all land. At least from what I understand about myself. I would say persuasive is probably the one that I would put on there. I learned that early on in life that I could be effective in those ways. And certainly I use my delivery, my connections with people, my ability to present big ideas to my advantage. So I certainly use that as a superpower.
I've seen it.
Feel like, Greg, that's more of a, here's where I think that the organization ought to go, and you help people see that the direction is, collectively their idea, maybe as a unit, instead of just being you telling them where to go. Is your persuasive power one where you help them see your goal? But not make it about you telling them to go do that, more of them adopting and buying in?
I'd like to hope so. I believe that's true. I mean, certainly it's a huge fear, quite honestly, is do my ideas, are they met with genuine acceptance and excitement? Or are they being led with smoke and mirrors? And that's never my intention. But certainly there are maybe bad eggs in the persuasion type category where people are all smoke and mirrors and no substance. And I don't believe I'm that way, but certainly I'm aware that those types of people exist and that type of cynicism exists, right? And so, yeah, if I'm driving vision, it's nothing if I can't communicate it clearly, but it's also nothing if people don't follow along. So that's a big risk and a big thing that I focus on.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Kryptonite. So here we are in the kind of generics again, and one of these that you'd want to single click on here.
Yeah, probably the first one. Again, these all seem pretty spot on. The being attentive to detail. I think the word attentive to detail is key. There are details that I obsess over, actually. Like I obsess over the fact that Will, you and I are bleeding off the bottom of the screen on his, and that irritates me, to be honest. It bothers me a little bit.
Would this make you feel better?
That makes me feel a whole lot better. Thank you. So
I'm here for you.
It really is more about, am I sufficiently attentive to the details that drive action? So while I may obsess over little details like that is completely irrelevant to whether this is a successful episode or not. Those things get under my skin a little bit. They make me uncomfortable. But that's not the part I'm talking about here. The part I'm talking about here is, am I attentive to the needs of the team I'm trying to drive and motivate to what they need to follow with confidence? That is clearly important, and that is definitely a blind spot that I work on every day.
Interesting. Will, do you mind if I jump in for a sec?
Of course.
And I'm just going to say this is where a pointer would be really helpful. So, Greg, the attentive to detail or detail orientation comes up especially because your E and your P are they're the long points.
That's the biggest spread.
Yeah, it's where the big spread is, and so there's this enthusiasm and this energy, and then also this urgency. And so it's not that you aren't analytical or you don't pay attention to detail. It's that you get ahead of yourself. I mean, this is the generic profile. But then that D, I'm so glad you said that, because we call that a hook back D. What that means is, if it's important to you, you know the 12-digit serial number. If it's not important to you, it's not important to you. You delegate it, move it on. You got a great team. You don't have to know everything. So that's a really nice connection. So, Will, I jumped your thunder on that.
No, I love it. And a point that John made that there, and that I'll touch on a bit before we move to the next slide too, is, and John brings this up a lot, the positioning of those points is relative. So,
right.
What you looked at there, someone else could end up in exactly the same quadrant as you and have a different spread between the points. And that's relative to them. So it's not like your patience is extremely low. It's just low in comparison to your dominant trait. And so it's interesting when you look at other quadrants and other people that are in the same readouts that are in the same quadrant as you, the spreads are different, but it's relative to each person, not like their gap and your gap matter in comparison to one another. It's all about the individual.
Well, it sounds like you're asking the producer to get some people from other quadrants. Is that a valid criticism?
Here's what I will say, my friend. I focus on.
Greg, we'll be back with you in a minute. We have to have a little one-on-one. Go ahead.
Doing something good. So I'm not going to use the word criticism here. I'm not criticizing you at all, but it is interesting, right? Early in the program, early in the show, and the evolution of what we're doing here, the people pursuing us and the ones that we're naturally pursuing are outgoing, driven people, and we're ending up heavy on that side. And I think as the spread of the show happens and we get some organic, who's next, I think we'll end up kind of
I think you're
sprinkling in the other boxes.
I think you're right. So to move on, apology accepted, and then let's get into the notes that Greg gave us.
Yeah, so this is when Greg analyzed his results, and then he commented back to us about how it made him feel and think and reflect. So I'm not going to ask you, Greg, if there's one of these you want to hit on. I'm going to let you look at the notes here and just comment openly about the Superpowers piece and what you were pleased to see and what you agree with. I want to spend some time here, but more on the Kryptonite, FYI.
Yeah. I can quickly go through all these, actually. Here's the thing that's just amazing, or that I find amazing, and maybe that's because I'm in that high E quadrant, is what I perceive in myself is one thing. What others perceive in me is another, and what I actually am is quite another, right? And so what I am always striving for is not to be in a specific place or for others to see me in a specific place. What I'm striving for is alignment. What I'm striving for is being realist me that I can be at work and at home and in the world, and that be my superpower. So I would argue, and I'm sure you guys would argue this too, that superpowers can be all over those quadrants.
Yes.
There's value in the diversity of people, not in one way or the other, right? And so when I say here that it's so important for me to align others with others that can quote check me, that is because one massive insecurity that CEOs have, especially CEOs of small companies like mine, is, are people agreeing with me because I'm the boss, or are they agreeing with me because they agree with me?
Yeah.
Right. And so if you take someone like me who is always speaking with from a place of excitement, energy, persuasion, and painting big picture vision, it's very easy to be like running my mouth off, literally charging ahead. I always use outdoor adventure references, but the idea of like, I'm trailblazing and I'm talking to myself and entertaining myself, and then I turn around and my whole team is miles behind, right? That is the biggest risk that someone, I believe, like with my kind of profile falls into, because I like to eat my own dog food. It's like really good because I made it and because I'm telling you that it's delicious, right? So surrounding myself with teammates that can say, no, wait a minute, I hear what you're saying, but I disagree, or here's another point of view, or have you considered something differently, makes me stronger, makes our team stronger. And so I've positioned our, specifically my executive team, to not be a whole bunch of people that are just like me. There's no progress. Instead, surround myself with people that attack it from different ways. I use this example all the time. Ocean's 11 is probably a perfect example of this, like building a team to do a heist. Okay. If you have 5 demolition people, you're not going to steal anything, right? You're going to blow a whole bunch of stuff. But everyone has to surround themselves around the common goal, right?
Yep.
And that's how I feel about surrounding my team, myself with a team that just complements each other, challenges each other, and basically gives me the confidence to keep going, because I know they feel comfortable, they feel psychologically safe, they feel empowered to challenge me for the right reasons. So I think that's an important thing for someone who maybe is in a position of leadership and is extremely persuasive.
I think it's kind of the example of a modern leader. I grew up in the ad business in the 80s, and it was extremely hierarchical. And, you knew your place. And I think today's, and the boss is always right or whatever, right? And in today's world, business moves too fast. No one person can know it all. And if they try, that's going to be a very rigid system, and it's going to snap under force. So I think that's that's a lot of what we talk about when we go into different companies. Let's get to the other side of the equation. So we'll dig in.
Will do. Kryptonite. Unlike John, you have weaknesses, Greg, and when stress is high, pressure's on, whatever it is that's triggering it, our superpowers invert. They can slow us down. They can impact our quality of delivery. They can impact the way we treat others. Vulnerability time. Let's talk about your kryptonite and why you chose to put pen to paper, so to speak, and make these notes.
Yeah. lot of challenges constantly. And these are challenges that are not easy to face, but are worth it to face for the good of the organization, and frankly, for the good of my team, right? I believe a lot of leaders fall in the trap of saying, I'm in this position for a reason, and therefore what I say is what the culture of the organization will be. And I think there's a fine nuance between driving vision and letting culture take hold the way in which it's meant to be, than defining the culture. So when people say, like, what's a great culture? I say a great culture is where everyone feels empowered to contribute to it. It's a living organism. The reason why I bring that up is that everyone's different. Those that I meet with daily and those whom I meet with less than daily, they all have different ways in which they perceive information, interpret information, and then actually move towards action. And at the same time, there's that overlay of, oh, wait, Greg's the CEO and he expects me to do this. And I have this apprehension of, have I done it the right way? Am I hitting all the right goals? Is he going to be satisfied with what we come up with? And so one of the things that I've really learned the hard way is that just because I'm comfortable with change, there's two things to finish that sentence. Doesn't mean we shouldn't change. And it also means that other people need different types of things in order to feel more comfortable changing. Right? It is very easy for me to come in and day out and have a completely different day. I love it, actually. I love the unknown. And I realize that there are some really valuable members of my team that cannot do that.
Don't want, yeah, exactly.
And
But the same degree,
I don't want them to do that.
Yeah.
Because what makes them is so critical to the success of our business. And it is up to me and other leaders to identify where that alignment is and where it is. Here's an example, a real example. Pre-pandemic, when we were all in the office, and we're in a hybrid forever relationship here at Brooksville, but when we were all in the office, what I love to do is pop into someone's office and say, I got this idea, and blah, 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 blah. And what I realized early on is that there are some people who are like, yes, great. They pick their head up, they walk over to a chair, we grab a coffee together, we go for a walk, and we just talk about it spur of the moment. There are others who are saying, wait a minute, I was in the zone. I can't break away. I can't switch my mindset context. And then there's others who say, wait a minute, I need to understand exactly what we're talking about so that I can adequately prepare. I have tremendous anxiety, right? All three of those, and that's grossly just generic.
You just did one view of our 4 quadrants.
Well, there you go, right? And here's the thing. All of those quadrants can be very successful in a thriving workplace culture. And most organizations fall into the trap of saying it's one way or the highway. And so what does that do? It creates a lot of anxiety. It creates a lot of mistrust. It creates a lack of fulfillment. It creates a lack of collaboration. It creates metrics moving in ways that maybe you act on that are wrong and incorrect. Like, well, wait a minute, utilization is down. So therefore, this person isn't doing enough work, or this person is not hitting deadlines, or not being accountable. The reality is, and this is where I go about the idea, that diversity is what makes us, that's our superpower, is unlocking the fact that people work differently. And when I can key in how I work differently and you work differently, but we work together across infinite amount of connections within our organization, that's how you unlock kind of the power of the company. And so
before we leave that, Greg, question for you, 2-pronged on this point. Where you are today versus, earlier in your career as a leader.
Yeah.
What you just talked about the importance of diversity of thought, the importance of embracing the diversity and the needs of those around you. Did that evolve from mistakes made and issues had early in your leadership career, and or did that evolve from experiences you had with leaders who did things in a way that you were like, when I get the wheel, like I'm not driving like that, right? Like the first boss that John had in the 80s in the ad business that was like, I don't give a what you think. Here's what I'm telling you to think, right?
Here's what you think, yeah.
Yeah. So was it more about mistakes that you made and balls you fumbled as yourself, or maybe experiences with leaders, or a combination of the two that led to that?
Yeah, it's kind of the combination of the two. Because look, we're all fallible in some ways, right? But what I discovered is this: when I did things, not regrettable things, but things that probably weren't the best in terms of effectiveness as a leader at other organizations, I believe after a time of reflection that it wasn't because I had the wrong intention. It wasn't because I had the wrong amount of effort. It was because the systems that were required of me did not match the way in which I led. Here's an example. When someone says you must have a one-on-one weekly with everyone on your team, that doesn't compute with me. And the reason why is because I don't want a specific amount of time to lock into place when I come up with an agenda so that we talk very specifically about this. Instead, I want millions of micro engagements, both online and offline, throughout the week. Now, here's the risk, though. The risk is there are people within my organization, there are people in my past, it's just not me, that do want that stuff. They do want to have a day of the week that they can count on getting FaceTime with me to go over an agenda item and to do that. And so my failures of a leader ongoing is how to ensure that when we onboard new people, because I have a good handle now of my team that I have now, but when we onboard new people, that I create the space so that if they require those things, I know that they require those things.
Right.
And if they don't, they know it's okay to not require those things. Right? It is that freedom of that. So it really is a combination of the two. Absolutely. When I said, wait a minute, I'm going to take over as CEO and now I can make policy. Almost every one of my policies was to have less policies. Right? And I ran in when I get a lot of feedback. Hey, by the way, CEOs get it's a lonely place to be a CEO.
Yeah.
You get very little feedback, right? When thankfully my team has been really willing to give me reviews, right? And what are some of the things that I have as areas of improvement? Being more explicit of what I'm looking for, communicating more clearly. Because in my mind, I'm just like, whoa, yeah, like, don't you see it? Isn't that amazing? That's beautiful. We'll do this, 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 and this. And I don't want to micromanage you. I think you know exactly what to do. And I'll see you at the finish line. Right? Check in with me if you need it. But they need, some members of my team need very specific benchmarks. So that's a huge learning for me.
I love that. And I put the big hand up, and you can put your big hand up too. I have to turn your big hand on. I did that because I thought you were walking exactly where we wanted to go next, which is how do you take this knowledge that Will has pulled out of you, that you read in your OED report, as well as obviously the knowledge you had before, and then apply that type of like, oh, I'm a high A and high E and low P and moderate D, okay, whatever that means. How do you apply that to any of these homework, social type of environments?
Yeah, I apply it to all.
Yeah.
And there are hits and misses in all. Look, the biggest challenge with my family is that I'm used to being a CEO and giving orders. And then I go home and I realize that I'm not the CEO.
That's true.
My wife is,
Will's eyes got big.
yeah. And where the patience thing actually plays into this, okay? And we'll use this on an example for the work side too. I'm the type of person that when someone presents something to me on a Google Slides, if I get it, if I get that slide, I want them to move on. And that takes some acknowledgement on my end to not be the type of leader that says, okay, got it, keep on moving. Because in the presenting of those ideas to me is in the fulfillment and pride of work of them presenting it to me.
100%.
Right? And most leaders, that's unfair. Some leaders say, no, you're presenting to me. No, that's not the case. Sometimes, admittedly, I sometimes carry that type of belief structure, but I'm working on not doing that. Instead, it's saying, hey, I'm attacking it from this perspective. You're attacking it from this perspective. Help me understand your perspective so that I can help complement it, or I can help amend it, or I can help debate it, right? And so that is a big leadership lesson for me on the work side, is that my lack of patience gets me into trouble because I become too curt and I become just impatient, right? Yeah. Okay, you could have just sent that to me. I get it. But that's totally discounting that the need to actually present it as something important. And it's the same with social. On the social side, I assume you mean social, meaning friends and family, not necessarily like social media.
Whatever. That means whatever you want it to mean.
Yeah, I mean, relationships are hard, right? And I've been told in the past that I'm sometimes a acquired taste to be around. Why? Because I fit a lot of things in, and I tend to really engage with people who do the same. I do everything to the nth degree, and I just get a lot done. And that is sometimes tough. Here's a perfect example: like going on vacation with friends, real challenging, because I don't like to. I totally understand the merits of sitting on a beach. To me, that's wasted time. I hate it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
So it's little things like that I need to constantly remind myself, because the value of those friendships are not in what I accomplish on my vacation. It's having shared experiences with my friends. It's having shared successes with my coworkers, right? So they all apply, right? And the final thing I'll leave you with is that all three of these things are integrated. I really believe that I don't want people on my team who think of this as a job. Is there a contract? Yes, they do work. We pay them. We are successful together. But if we don't consider that what makes us human outside of the physical time we're together in the office is contributes to our ability to be great together collaboratively, we're missing a huge opportunity to just do great work right together. And so I think that the relationships that we have with people are the same. They should be the same. We should apply that. We should break down those kind of real old, just, rules that have been Frankensteined into organizations over the years that are built to restrict people in the office than they are to actually how to do great work.
Yeah.
So,
hey, John, before we leave here, I want to push on one pain point there. I like that Greg brought up the fact that he is not going to be the guy who's going to lounge on the beach. So socially, Greg, do you find then that because of your drive and your internal wiring, that your closest social circle ends up being people that you encounter professionally, and that you know what they do and how they deliver, and that there's an inherent respect for them as a result, and you commune with them more easily than you would someone that you meet randomly that you don't know whether or not they may be far more casual laid back or low key than you are?
Hmm.
Do you find that your social circle really overlaps a lot with your professional interactions as a result?
No, actually.
That's great.
My main friend group, social group, are not in my industry. We gain a lot of alignment over other affiliations, sports teams or I'm a photographer, photography and movies and things like that. And it's challenging because my personality, I like to talk about what I do, and but I don't want someone to look at me like like they're hanging out with me for mentorship. Like
Right.
I need someone who's just hanging out with me as an equal, right? And it becomes a challenge when you're at work because it's just really tough to be friends with work colleagues.
Yeah.
It's just hard. Yeah.
Great. Guys, we could go on forever. Greg, who's next? Who can you suggest to be under the scorching interrogation of Mr. Will Barfield?
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
I assume alive or dead.
Preferably alive.
Okay. This is an actual who's next.
This isn't who would you invite to dinner, right? Like,
Yeah.
They need to be able to be on the show.
Yeah. Is it okay if I nominate a fellow local?
Yes. We love local.
I'd like to nominate a friend named Maggie Kane.
Oh, Maggie's the best.
Yeah.
Yep. Who is the founder of A Place at the Table, who is would be an interesting conversation because not only is she mission driven, she's growing an organization and being a leader, not only in the community, but also within her organization. So I think she would be a great person to.
And she's already done her OAD assessment.
Oh, has she? Great.
We are ready to roll.
Yeah, through the board, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Love that, Greg.
Excellent.
That's great.
What a show. He's Will Barfield.
And he's John Lane.
And we are
a
work in progress. Greg, thank you for being part of this. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, guys.
Can't thank you enough. Have a good week, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Work in Progress is a podcast presentation of Slipshod Productions. Available on LinkedIn and YouTube. Executive produced and starring John Lane and Will Barfield. Talent booking, production, and editing by John Lane. Thanks for watching. See you next week.